Alright, Chapter 8. Purity is governed by its value. Part A. Discovering your value in God's eyes. Celebration story by Tasha from Pennsylvania. Tasha on discovering her value. And the bride wore white touched me in a deep place. I am a recovering anorexic, suffering, but triumphantly over depression. I have never engaged in intercourse, but I have done things I regret. When I was in the hospital at 63 pounds, I decided to be in love with only Christ until he tells me otherwise. I believe that decision changed me for the best. I rededicated my life to Christ, got baptized, and joined my church. The Bride book was such an epiphany for me. I want to be the greatest role model I can be. Alright. So it says, shows you a verse in Psalms 45, verses 11 and 13 to 14. The king is enthralled by your beauty. Honor him, for he is your Lord. All glorious is a princess within her chamber. Her gown is interwoven with gold. In embroidered garments she is led to the king. The pile of textbooks and syllabi on my desk looked like Mount Everest, so I had made the choice to be a responsible college student on this Saturday evening. That was 3 hours ago, and I decided I didn't realize how long Saturday night could get. I sat alone in a massive dorm that was normally full of a couple hundred chattering college girls trying to concentrate on my organizational communication paper. Only made the silence more deafening. I needed a friend. I tried Kimberly. Her roommate answered. Sorry, Dana, she said, seeming to know how I felt. She's out with Jake tonight. I think she took a late pass, so she probably won't be back until after midnight. My fingers ran through the college film book. Someone I knew had to be around. I stopped at the G's. Bob Grush, I exclaimed. He'll be around. It was the running joke that he and his gang could never make up their minds quite what to do. They spent so much time talking about it, they almost never got around to doing anything before it was too late. I dialed Bob's number in hopes that it was his room they'd decided to deliberate in tonight. Hey, what's shakin'? Answered the crazy familiar voice. Hi Bob. It's me, Dana. I said, I'm dateless, friendless, and bored. I need a friend to talk to, and friends are a little scarce around here on Saturday night. I'd met Bob 9 months previously in Mrs. Hanner's advanced composition class. He was a comfortable friend. I liked him because he was the class clown, but being in his writing group allowed me a peek into his serious nature. He wasn't just funny and outgoing. His writing told me that he was full of character and conviction. He had a vision and was driven to see it through. He was emotional and tender-hearted. He had an uncompromised passion for God. I really respected him. When are you going to admit that you're going to marry me? He asked. You're always saying that, silly. I laughed. He was, too, but neither of us thought it meant anything. He was always saying something that meant nothing to get a good laugh. I'll be right over, he said. What? I responded. We're going on a date, he informed me. An hour later, we were sitting on a park bench eating the very last of our crazy bread and sharing a Frosty. We laughed about advanced composition. We showed each other pictures of our families. He acted funny. I laughed at him. We talked about our dreams. You're a cheap date, he said, throwing away our trash as if the conversation was getting a little too deep for him. I don't mean that in a bad sense, just that you're easily contented. This is not a date, I said adamantly, smiling at his sudden discomfort at the thought he may have offended me. He comfortably reached over and kissed me. It was warm and wonderful, but very unfamiliar. Now, do you think this is a date, Dana Barker? He asked as he gazed intently into my eyes. I wish you were here with me right now. I would pamper you nearly to death. I would grab some of my favorite hand lotion, probably pear peach scented, and I would give you a wonderful hand massage all the way up to your elbows. Then I would take you into my dining room where I would have the table covered in silk and lace. Dainty, valuable teacups would be waiting for us at the perfect temperature. I would have Godiva biscuits lying in a crystal bowl near your table setting. Close your eyes and go there with me. Rub your hands and relax. Hearing the relaxing music in the background, imagine the beautiful teacup as you lift it to your lips. Crunch into that delicious biscuit smothered in just the right amount of chocolate. This is excellent. I feel pampered. Do you? Oh, wake up. All I really gave you was a lousy bag of dead leaves and some hot water. That's it. Okay, the Godiva was a bit costly. But it was not what I gave to you that made you feel special. It was how I gave it to you. Just so you know, when she started talking about massaging, this just went on into another section of the book. It wasn't part of the story. You see, I could have walked down the hall outside my office to a cold steel machine, and after plunking a few coins into it, brought you a styrofoam cup full of tea leaves and hot water. There would be no great memories there. I gave you something trashable. I could have driven you to the local coffee shop and ordered us a ceramic mug of hot tea and maybe have made a bagel or something to go with it. That would be okay. But if the mug broke or we never got to go there again, no big deal. The mug wasn't treasured and valued in the highest sense. But pull in the fine china and silk and lace and Godiva treats, and we have a memory that we want to keep around. You and I would both be crushed if one of those precious cups broke. They are a treasured possession to us. Let me ask you something. In your dating relationships, are you a trashable styrofoam cup, an everyday ceramic mug that is easily replaceable, or a valuable, priceless teacup? It's all in the presentation. There's this this little test. Yeah, there's a little test, and it's a styrofoam cup, ceramic mug, or priceless teacup. And it says, take this quick quiz, decide in each category whether you are a styrofoam cup, which will be represented with an S, a ceramic mug, which will be represented with a C, or a priceless teacup, which will be represented with a T. Fill in the letter with the appropriate letter. Yeah, fill in the box with the appropriate letter. So the boxes would be like, let me show it to you in a way that you can see it. No, this is not going to work. Anyway, it says, in the way I dress, so decide whether you're one of the three in the way you dress, in the movies that you watch, in the television shows that you watch, in the material you view on the internet, in the way you talk to girls about guys, in the places you're willing to go on dates, in the things you're willing to do on dates, in the length of time it takes you to give your heart away to some guy, in the way you treat your friends when a dating opportunity pops up, and in the way you spend time with God, specifically talking to Him about guys. So you test yourself on those things. Write down a list of what those things in a box, and then write whether you're a styrofoam cup in that, you're a ceramic cup in that, or whether you're a teacup in that. I've heard the saying, every great love story ends in tragedy. Many times lately, of course, you can quickly point to the very dead Romeo and Juliet as a prime example. Oh, by the way, you know what I'll do? In case you didn't get that, I will put it in the description. The things that you can rate yourself on. Okay? Anyways, I've heard the saying, every great love story ends in tragedy. Many times lately, of course, you can quickly point to the very dead Romeo and Juliet as a prime example of this statement. But she's a hopeless romantic, and don't want to believe that. So she took the time to line up some proof that not all great love stories end in tragedy. I found some that don't. This is the author talking. Little Women is really 3 great love stories that end happily. Even the story of Joe and Laurie ends happily since they don't do anything they regret. You can read the classic version by Louisa May Alcott and get the full picture of the great story, or you can rent the video version starring Winona Ryder for a faster but just as heart-stirring look at characters' love stories. Sense and Sensibility is a fantastic love story of 2 sisters and their husbands-to-be that also ends happily. Again, you can read the classic by Jane Austen if you are a good reader, or you can rent the video version starring Emma Thompson. They're both fantastic. Passion and Purity is a fabulous book detailing the love story of Jim and Elizabeth Elliot. It was also my handbook to sexual purity through my college years. Be sure to find a copy of this one. What I have concluded as I have read these stories and others is that great love stories do not have to end in tragedy. However, a flame of pain fuels every great love story. The pain comes in one of 2 packages. The first package is called the crash and burn. Your first choice is to have a relationship that is an easy road of blissful moments. The problem is that the relationship could potentially end in a fuel fire of pain. These love stories are written by women who are styrofoam cups and sometimes ceramic mugs. Romeo and Juliet are a great example of this. Julia wears her heart on her sleeve and throws every caution to the wind to be with Romeo. She defies her parents, sneaks around to be with him, and makes easy, hard-to-finding choices to have secret moments of bliss with Romeo. In the end, they commit suicide because their relationship is opposed. I do like the story, but I sure would not want it to be my greatest love story. Where's the sunset? Where's the happily ever after? Where's the pulse? Their pulse. The girls I have met who choose to make easy, hard to find choices seem to have no sense of self value. They are trying desperately to get some kind of guy to desire them at any cost, at about any cost. Unfortunately, these are often the girls who get trashed at the end of the relationship because they didn't convey any sense of self value to the guy. I hope you will not choose the crash and burn. Sorry, I need water. Now I'm gonna just say um about the little options, like they're pretty good, and it's not, I don't think she means and what I got from it the first time is I don't think she means oh, you have to be so high maintenance, oh, you have to take me to these fancy restaurants. No, it's just don't give all of yourself away right away to some guy. Don't you know, take it slowly, very, very slowly, and make him in a way and it's not playing hard to get, but make him earn it, because if he gets all that he could possibly want from you, you will get bored, because guys like the chase. I mean, it doesn't change. So I think that's what she means. Just respect yourself, and have him respect you, and treat you right. Alright, and the other package, the pure slow burn. You can have the sunset love story in your life, but it will mean that you choose the pain that comes in package number 2, the pure slow burn. The pain here is caused by your own self-control, which really feels much like self-denial. As you guard your heart and your body, you can expect to experience some pain. It is far easier, short-term, to be the girl who throws caution to the wind and lets her heart and body become tangled into the moment. But if your great love story is fueled by the pain that is caused by wise, head-defined choices in the beginning, it may come with a blissful, happily ever after ending. If the relationship does end, you will have no regrets because you have not given your heart or your body away. And there are still lots of nice, clean pages upon which to keep writing your story. One broken relationship is not the end. Sense and Sensibility is a great portrait of this kind of love story, but what is so masterful about this classic is that it is laced also with a tragic love story. Eleanor is the older sister who falls madly in love with Edward, who is handsome, wealthy, and good-hearted. Throughout her relationship, she is governed by the strictest of choices. She does not allow her heart to be seen. Unfortunately, prior to meeting her, Edward was secretly engaged to another. Being an honorable man, he knows he must not shame the young woman who no longer owns his heart. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it was written in a different day and age. Stick with me. Eleanor is careful to allow him to remain honorable by not manipulating his heart, but by standing free and proud on her own. Her sister, Marianne, on the other hand, falls for Willoughby and lets everyone know it as they race off in his carriage day after day, and as she sends him a ridiculous number of unanswered notes. In a great twist, Willoughby marries another for her wealth and leaves Marianne crying at her loss of love. Not to mention her loss of integrity. Meanwhile, Eleanor takes a call from Edward, who she thinks is married but who has been honorably freed from his commitment. He comes to ask on bended knee for her hand in marriage. A wedding carriage, fresh petals, and white horses escort them into happily ever after. I love Psalm 45. It was written as a wedding song and was probably sung at many Jewish weddings in the days of King David. It's also a wonderful figurative example of what God sees when he looks at you and me, the bride of Christ. He looks upon you and sees a princess. You are a princess. A princess enjoys the great benefits of being waited upon and being adorned with rich tapestry. In my mind, she is calm and contented with where she is today because she knows she is a princess and will someday be married to a marvelous prince. Okay. I know sometimes you may feel more like a frog than a princess, but those are just feelings and they will go away. When I was in high school, I never looked in the mirror. I put my makeup on without looking. How many silly smudges there must have been. I felt pretty frog-like. Sometimes in my college years, I decided that God had done a pretty good job with me, and it became much easier to be governed by my value because I had begun to feel it. It wasn't just about how I looked, but I had begun to accept how I looked as a part of who and what God valued. It was about how I was saturating myself with God's truth as I began to be filled With his presence, I began to feel the value he placed on me. The point is, God says you are a princess. He is enthralled by your beauty. Do you believe that? Do you trust the God who made you to be a better judge of your value than the way hormonal days, bad friends, and a crazy schedule can sometimes make you feel? You are a princess. Your behavior and the choices you make must be governed by that value. If you are aiming for the sunset ending in your love story, you must present yourself as you would priceless china. What choices will you make to build a great love story? Will they be choices governed by your heart and your feelings, which can lead to tremendous heartbreak and humiliation? Will you present yourself like trashable styrofoam or on everyday ceramic mug? Or will you make choices governed by your head and the knowledge that you are valued as a princess in God's eyes? Will you be highly valued like a precious piece of china? Sometimes making choices based on your value may hurt a great deal at first, but they offer you the chance of a great happily ever after and will always result in no regrets. Write your story. Which are you headed for in your life? The crash and burn? The pure slow burn? Grab your journal and begin with, based on my own evaluation, I am headed for the crash and burn, slow burn. Here is why, and or here is what I need to change. So just decide which one you think you're on based on those things, on what I read. And yeah.